next wave of hiring for the company. This is just a small preliminary budget showing that in the first year it's going to be about $1 million from the red. The second year is going to be just over $300,000 in the red. The fourth year will take me in about $400,000 profit in the sixth year, and that's given us another investment into the company at $300,000 of our own profit. Access my office again. I'm looking for 1.5 million to get started, but it's a complete economical development system that is internet-based, helps small businesses get started, brings resources and money back into the county, employs and educates people in the county. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill. Thank you, Kenneth. Again, this is another opportunity that we may very well have as a result of Tech River. What I would like to do is turn access my office over to Chamber Vetting, let them thoroughly work through his proposal, and we'll come back to you next month with some type of answer.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Are you an existing business, or are you just
No, I've been in business since 2000 in St. Petersburg, Florida.
doing this?
Yes, I've actually been developing the different technologies and playing with the Microsoft, and I'm using it right now with about 6 customers.
That's my next question. How many customers do you have?
I've got legal, I've got residential, financial.
If it's not proprietary, how many customers do you actually have?
Right now, a team of 3, we're handling about 8 customers on a monthly retainer and about 4 others that call as needed.
It's a very high need for small business.
Yes.
Because if you don't work for a large corporation where you have an IT department, it's a problem. The other thing, when you access my computer, you have access to my confidential information, my customer base.
As an administrator, we always have access to everything.
So then I have a problem if I totally trust you. What sort of a bond do you have, or how do I protect my information?
It's a very hard one to answer.
I work for a bank, and when I have an IT department, they go in and remotely get into my computer and fix all the problems I have. That's the same thing you're going to be doing for small business.
Yes. But what we're going to be doing is also to follow with the HIPAA laws and the PCI laws is complete monitoring that cannot be removed. So at any time someone accesses any particular part of the system, there is a log of who's accessed at what time and what machine they've accessed it from. So that'll be available to everybody, so we can do full audits.
That's a feedback system though, right? That would only catch a problem after it occurs?
No. With the new PCI laws and HEPA laws, everything has to be proactively monitored. So all the logs, all the activity logs are actually going to be monitored on a basis. That's going to be a level 2 help desk person. That's going to be, his primary job is to sit there and monitor logs all the time.
Right, but what I'm saying is the breach of security is going to occur, and then you're going to catch that on the logs. You're not going to prevent the breach of security up front. Just the nature of the way the system's set up.
No, you got to look at how the breach happens. If the breach is coming from one of my employees, then yes.
And typically, most breaches in security happen from employees.
Right.
From a company's own employees.
Right.
Not external like everybody thinks.
Right, in that case, yes, it is a reactive type of response.
So you're wanting to move your business from Pinellas County to here, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Well, did somebody help you get started in Pinellas County?
No, I did it myself.
But you want us to do it for you here?
In order to grow at a speed that would be fair to the customers and stuff, I'll need some money up front to build the system and to educate the employees. For me to do it by myself, I already started growing once, and without having the right talent, the whole thing is for small businesses trust and the ability to be there for them.
So you think there's enough business in Hardee County for this projection of money you're talking about?
The nice thing about Access My Office is that even though it's based in Hardee County, the customers have to be in Hardee County.
I've got nationwide or worldwide,
as long as there's an internet connection, and to breach the you're not here local is the local representative, another IT company that's a small computer store, things like that. I've got a salesperson already in Punta Gorda, Florida. Not Punta Gorda, I'm sorry, Palm Beach, Florida. And I also have a big footprint in the Tampa Bay area. I cover from Sarasota all the way to Wesley Chapel.
Okay, so you're in Wesley Chapel too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you saying you're gonna share customers with Continuum Labs or Tech River?
Oh,
Is that
yes,
what you said?
yes.
How many have you got now from them?
I haven't worked with Continuum now, but I have about 8 customers that need application development and things like that, yes.
I know, but you said you were gonna share customers with them. How many have you got from them to share?
I'm a little confused on that.
Well, you said you was gonna share customers with Continuum Labs or Tech River. Well, how many have you got now from them
I haven't gotten anything from them.
to share? No customers at this point.
Oh, I've got about 8 customers that are.
Never mind, never mind. I guess I'm not making myself clear. Are you gonna do any maintenance of PCs or anything like that?
That's what most of our, the core of our business is we remotely maintain the system at night.
I mean, physically
Hardware,
fix them.
hardware maintenance.
We want to turn that over to a local, to be our local representative, so that when there's a hardware issue, the local representative repairs it, and then we remotely configure it if needed.
So you're not gonna be competing with our existing people here in town that do that type of work?
No, we want to enhance them. We actually want them to be able to go out, take care of the talents that they have, and the advanced talents that the small business needs, as in engineering, advanced administration. We want to offer that through them. If the local guy sells us to someone, they will actually receive a monthly recurring income from us to be on call, so to speak. So if we can't do anything remotely for that customer, they can go physically to the customer and handle the hardware issues.
How do you, I'm struggling to understand how you would expect to retain a MCSE at $32,900, because I've met a lot of MCSEs before. I've never had one that worked for $32,000.
Well, no, your MCSE is going to be on your level 3, and that's about $55,000 to $75,000 job. Where Access No Office is just like a corporate structure. You have, right now, looking at 4 level 1 help desks, which are your A+, N+ certification Windows desktops. Then you've got your level 2, which are your specialized administrators, like Exchange administrator, email administrators, security appliance administrators, and then level 3 would be your engineers to maintain the internal network, plus also talk to the prospective customer needs.
So if I'm one of your customers, there's people I have to deal with before I get to the people who are qualified to deal with the issues that I have.
It's going to be like any standard corporate help desk. It's going to be assessed at level 1 and then moved up as needed.
Any other questions from the board?
I do. You say you have 8 customers now, and if you were to move here, your 4-year projected, was that 224 customers you project in 4
Yes.
years?
Yes.
You've been in business since 2000,
Yes.
have 8 customers in 13 years?
I've had several more than that, but I've stabled out for what I have employment staff to handle, the 8 customers, and I'll be honest, I work about 15, 20 hours a week. And I maintain their network so proactively that they've been with me since 2001.
What's a real driver between those two numbers? Because that's a huge gap.
Sales. Once I get the team in place and I know that the help desk can be covered, it just needs sales. Because it's a big corporate Microsoft network that it's to be based on, and then we're going to venture out from there. But it is nothing that, it's not a new product. It's out there already in the corporations. It just needs to be secured down a little bit, and then little pieces of it chunked out for the small business owner. They'll be like a department of a large corporation. The same exact network that I'm working on, they'll be on.
Yeah, we have it at the bank.
You have this company at the bank?
No, we have the same type of help desk, and remote control.
I've
I
worked
use them all
for,
the time.
I've worked for a number of companies that have IT departments, and, you know, the struggle is always as an end user is getting to that level of expertise that you need to solve your problem. And the more critical your business is, the faster you need that solved, the faster you need to get to that employee. So having a huge level of people who can't really solve your problem unless it's, reboot your computer and try it again, that would concern me. That's just a business model. I hate calling IT.
You don't use the right verb.
Well, I have a corporate IT, and they can be located anywhere. They're located in Houston, Texas. I contract with Rapid Systems, or Rapid Tech, Rapid TSI, whatever their name is now. Here locally, when I have a hardware problem, if I have an administrative problem, I call them up, they come out to the plant, they fix it. Whatever it is, I get the guy who has the capability, the expertise right there. And me, but as a small business, it's a lot better business model for me. Because I get the guy right up front who can solve my problem. That's just me. I know there's a lot of different approaches.
Well, with the customers using the same network that I'm working on, the issue is either going to be at the customer's level or it's going to be at a corporate level. So getting the right technician to fix it basically means that it's an issue with us if we have to go up levels 2 or 3. If it's levels 1 or 2, it's usually education to the end user, where we can talk to them over the phone or remote desktop with them and show them and train them on site, remotely. My whole business has been focused on exactly what you're describing, is being able to get to the right person, the right time, and get back up and running. And it's mostly critical in small businesses because they don't have that access. They talk to the local guy will point to this guy, that guy will point to that guy. Access my office is going to handle all of this, and we can't point fingers.
Well, the recommend, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's where I was going. Go
So the
ahead.
recommendation was that we turn this over to vetting to the chamber. It's the board's decision to do that, and let them do a thorough vetting and come back and give us a report next month. What is the pleasure of this board?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
What kind of second?
All right, any further discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much for your presentation.
The next presenter is James Scrivener from National Solar. It's been some time since folks have been here, and we're just asking for an update. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for inviting me. Again, my name is James Scrivener, National Solar Power. I'm the CEO of National Solar, based out of Melbourne. I think it was November of 2011 that the Board of County Commissioners here signed a developers agreement with National Solar for us to build the first of our many utility-scale solar farms here in Hardee County. As always, it's taken us a little longer than we would have liked to get started, but we've accomplished some significant milestones over that time gap. Probably the most tangible being completed the interconnection studies and executed the interconnection agreement with Duke Energy. We already have our power supply agreement in place with Duke, so now we're on a drawdown schedule to begin construction, hopefully in the fourth quarter of this year. That could slip, as these things commonly do. I know we have 2 more environmental studies that we're going to be doing between now and then that have to do with some, maybe some birds or something, that there are certain time gaps that the environmental studies have to be conducted. So we're bound by those time intervals associated with those environmental studies, but everything else until now in regards to entitlement construction design basically has met with a thumbs up. So we've been able to overcome all of our development barriers until now. We have secure project finance for the project, which is a pretty significant element as well. We're in due diligence with the project investors now for 100% of the project finance. So that's a significant element that we accomplished as well. This project that we begin later this year will hopefully be the first of somewhere between 10 and 30 of these farms we're going to try to build in Hardy County. We are right now engaged on another site as well in Hardy County that I can't really discuss openly because we're confidentially dealing with that site. But we're hoping to place a couple other sites under control as well for future development plans here in Hardy County. So that's most of my update there. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to field them.
That's your story and you're sticking to it?
That's my story. That's right. Yes, sir.
This is not a negative question, but I know
Sure.
with solar, there's been incentives through governmental various departments. Is there concerns from your standpoint with that, or will this, you see this moving along regardless of what the government is may or may not do?
Yeah, luckily for us, or maybe that's part of the thing that's taken us a while, frankly. We haven't had any incentives or any type of government money, and there's no incentives that we're pursuing for the sake of construction of this project. So this project for us is a proof of concept in a lot of ways. We started about 4.5 years ago with a vision of being able to build utility scale solar projects in Florida and sell the power at a market price, at a market index price. So no incentives, no special money, no government loans and these types of things. So a lot of people thought we were crazy 4 years ago, honestly. I think Bill, you probably made fun of us a couple times, first few times we talked to him. Yeah, but it was good, it was healthy. And honestly, the proof is in the history now that Bill sat with us and listened to what we had to say, and Hardy County believed in what National Solar, in our vision, and participated in that. And today we're probably 6 to 10 months from beginning construction on that project as a result of that. So the work that we did 2 years ago, addressing a lot of the concerns about how are you going to make this work, we were careful to structure our development agreement in such a way that it's all really performance related. So we have to go out and perform and build and complete and be successful at what we're attempting to do before we enjoy any type of incentives back from the county. So, and our model is a little different than most in that the incentives that we pursued are really germane to being able to make our economics work, being able to build a solar farm in Florida, sell the power at a rate, basically equilibrium with rate base, so that there's no increase to the customers. And the utilities that buy our power, in this case it'll be Duke Energy, enjoys full rate recovery on what they purchase from us, so we do no harm to them. So it's a much different animal, especially for renewable energy, than what's been pursued in the past. And we've had some barriers, frankly, to overcome that. But no, I stand here today and we haven't had a dollar from the government. It was interesting, earlier the gentleman was talking about the Space Alliance Technology Outreach Program. I actually ran that program for a year for NASA when I graduated from FIT. And we were also incubated by the state of Florida and NASA through their technology transfer program, technology outreach program. And they helped us get started over in Melbourne through the technology incubator there from the state of Florida. So we share some of that common heritage with those folks. But other than that, no help, other than some free advice. But no help or no money from the government.
Mr. Chairman, may I? If your board hasn't been down and visited the solar farm down in DeSoto County, it would be very interesting. And I just spoke with the chairman of the DeSoto County Board when we were in Tallahassee this week, asking him how the solar farm was doing, and he said quite well. So it's an interesting trip down to DeSoto County if you haven't been.
Thank you.
Along those lines, Florida Power and Light is hosting Power Florida on May 10th, which will be held at that facility. Everyone that has an interest, especially in alternative energy, may want to participate. Can you refresh us, is your construction phases still in 200 megawatt groupings, and you still would expect to build 4 of those at that one particular site?
Okay, so the first project will be about 20 megawatts, categorized as a small generator under the FERC regulation. My power plant, frankly, reinforce that.
So 200.
Yeah, then the whole site right now, we're hoping to build out to 200 megawatts. The single hurdle along that path is the Power Plant Siting Act at 75 megawatts. We anticipate we wouldn't hit that for about another maybe 18 or 24 months, that we'd be trying to exceed 75 megawatts. So right now the idea is to build the 20, again, sort of just like grandma's meatloaf, you know, finish this and then I'll give you more. You know, so we wanted to focus on a small generator, get that built up and running before we started biting off the larger tranches. All of the institutional investors that we're working with have invested based on that pipeline concept. So they're investing in that site, envisioning a 200 megawatt site at that location, yes. Yeah. Again, we know that we have a regulatory hurdle at 75 megawatts with the Siting Act. Local government actually has a lot to do with that. When we get to that process, we'll probably begin that process next year, but we want to get the first one under construction first so people believe us when we say we're going to come build another solar farm.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
My pleasure.
Next is Bill. Yeah.
I just need permission from the board to formally pursue the transfer of ownership of the Sheriff's Command Center to the BOCC. You just need a motion to do that. So it's not a
Question.
Yes.
Okay, it was my understanding when this thing was built, that was for have a presence of the sheriff's department in the park. Right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I keep going out there and I don't see any signs that says Hardy County Sheriff's Department. I don't see any lights up. I don't see any patrol cars sitting there that might deter somebody.
They just ain't got that bid yet.
Well, that's my question.
It's forthcoming.
Is it forthcoming? Boy, I'm glad to see Major Day here.
Yes, sir, it is. There is a sign at the front door, Sheriff's Star. Right now, I do have detectives there working. We're also in the process of moving our backup dispatch. In fact, it's being done as we speak. The sheriff plans to have it operational before the end of the month. At that point in time, it will become a north end substation where deputies will have keys to come and go out of that building.
You need a motion to have it up?
Yeah.
I'll make it.
You want to argue it?
No. I've argued with him enough. I'm not gonna do that anymore. He said he'll feed me that 3 meals a day if I don't do that.
We have a motion and seconded to transfer title of the command center of the Sheriff's Department to the Board of County Commissioners, actually. Any further discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries on.
Next item is the culvert replacement. It relates to several other moving parts. I will tell you that we need to begin formally developing the south half of the Commerce Park. And the first step in that is completing the culvert replacement. The engineering firm, Hunter Engineering, is poised and ready to complete the engineering, which is the first step in the culvert replacement. I need formal approval by the board to pursue such.
Are you asking for the money or just the approval to proceed with the engineering?
Well, the approval of the engineering will necessitate the expenditure of money. I think their contract is $2,500. It's in the packet. It's not really a very complex project.
No, but the culvert will probably be more. Is that in our budget?
That will come, once the engineering is done, then we'll RFP it or otherwise determine the best way to do it. We may use county, I don't know.
But we got the money.
We have to have engineered, yes.
It's in our budget.
I don't know that we have specifically appropriated a line item for that, but we'll come back and amend once we have the engineering.
We do have a line item in, we have in the IDA budget that was done last year with Larson Allen. They did actually do a line item for engineering services for the park. So we do have money actually appropriated for that.
Is that for the?
That's
It
just
included the
engineering.
culvert crossing as well.
It's included in,
Yes.
okay.
Now I'll entertain a motion for that, please.
So moved, sir.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Also along those lines, I may have mentioned this to a couple of you in passing, but this may be the last year we can economically harvest the citrus. There, we're going to have to make some decisions about whether or not we push the balance of citrus. I think the caretaking cost and the revenues are going to intersect, and we're going to go upside down this year. So I will be, once we get the final revenues from the fruit this year and can evaluate the status of the crop, the new crop, I'll let you know. But there's a lot of infection in that grove.
Yes, as there is in every grove. All right, you're still next up.
Sarah?
All right, the time has come again for us to submit applications to the EDA for any funding that we may want to receive. And we have 3 applications that we would like to submit for this funding cycle. Right now, the applications, some of them will be placeholders until we can formally nail down some specifics. But to go over the 3 applications that we will be submitting, one of them is going to be for an additional spec building. So we will put in a $2 million request to the EDA for funding to construct a spec building at an undetermined location at this point. And also the company that will, locate into that spec building at this time is not, definite, but we obviously have several companies that are going to be in need of facilities. So we think that this is obviously, the best way to, expend some of those EDA funds is construction of those buildings for the company so that we can get them here as quickly as possible. The other application that we will submit is for additional funding for the water and sewer corridor. We did an application for that project in the last cycle, and when we submitted, we did let them know that this would be a multi-phase build-out project, and so we would be coming back for additional funding. And so the application that I would like to submit this time would be for $500,000 to continue and, complete that project. You want to talk about that one?
Also, relative to those grants, go ahead, let's do it first.
Okay. The last one is our EDC funding. We decided last year that rather than submitting our budget strictly to the Board of County Commissioners, we would like to try to take some of the burden off of them for funding, as we are all well aware that budgets are tight. So we did submit an application to the EDA last cycle to receive $150,000 for our EDC funding. And that way we would not have to hopefully take anything from the BOCC. We did submit to the BOCC as well and were allocated funding, but as of right now, we have not taken any money from the BOCC, and we hope that we will be able to, keep holding to that. We'll just have to see how it goes till we get to September. We may have to dip into the BOCC funding a little bit, but we're trying to do the best we can and take as little as possible. So I would like to submit another application for next fiscal year to the EDA and receive an additional $150,000 from them for next fiscal year for EDC. And those are the 3 applications. Once we have more specifics and details, I'll bring the full applications back to the board and let you review them at that time before I submit them.
And one other request that we had omitted that I would like just to notice you of, we may also, well, I guess it's probably most appropriate if I now seek your approval or acquiescence to consider reassignment of the existing spec building that was reassigned to Railspur back to spec building from the EDA. I think it's in the amount of $1 million relative to what we end up doing with bio-nitrogen, Floracan, and other moving pieces on the table. We also have other money allocated, but if I can work it out where we can consolidate these projects, there may be a more efficient, effective way to apply these monies. You'll have full disclosure of what's going to happen before you do it, but we may have to ask the EDA to reassign some money. And since it's an IDA grant, it will require board approval to do that.
Reassign, is one spec building enough, money for one spec building?
We have $1 million.
Wells for it, and we have possibility of somebody moving to the existing spec building. This spec building, is one enough?
Right now, yes. Remember though, these EDA grant cycles pretty much last for a year, so you have to be somewhat forward-thinking, trying to anticipate other projects that may come along. Also, we won't know how much money is in that cycle probably until around mid-May. But their applications open May 1st. So we want to be prepared to have all of our applications ready for this board to consider. Any reassignments of existing applications, we'll have to take all that up in the May meeting. That's the purpose of this dialogue.
So what you're saying is we need to take the money away from the rail spur?
Well, we may or may not. It won't diminish anything with bionitrogen. I've discussed this in full with them, and it may work very well. But if we go to a different piece of property, we may not need the rail spur, but we may need additional building. So, so let's see what happens in the next 30 days, and we'll be prepared to discuss it at the next meeting.
Just so I understand, if part of this moving parts, Action is considering relocating from where they're at next to Mandola?
Yes. It's not compulsory. It may not happen, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least take a good hard look at it all. I think for the purposes today is just acknowledgement that we have told you what we're doing. And, you know, there's also flexibility. We may come back to you in May, and we have not really been in a position to expend any of the $500,000 EDA grant related to the corridor development. But we also made it clear when we got that grant awarded that we would be back in other cycles to get additional money. And, you know, it comes down to, at least from my perspective, if we have an ability to produce real jobs, real employment that is defined, that's tangible, that we can touch over a corridor development project, the philosophy of those applications may change too. So we'll have a better clarity in May to understand exactly which is the best way to go.
So really, that was just an informational presentation there.
Correct.
You'll be back next month with
Yes, sir.
specifics.
Yes, sir. Before we turn in the actual application to the EDA, I'll bring them back in full so you can review them.
Okay, thank you.
On
I'm
the
sorry.
same-
Go.
On the same issue, just for my sake, just a procedural issue, I guess, a question. Last month, Biomaxon came in and made a proposal to accelerate the funding of the rail spur. We tabled that, so until such time that we found the appropriate method to move forward. My question is this: how do we track those items that get tabled in the meeting to make sure that we circle back and follow up on them?
Well, that is basically what we're doing today, but there are so many.
I understand that, you know, one of my questions was, what is our progress on trying to come up with a solution to that? And I understand that we're doing that for this, but procedurally, how do we make sure that something doesn't fall through the cracks?
I can give you you tasked me with coming up with a solution, and I can tell you that the most effective solution that I have come up with, basically in a rudimentary fashion, is as follows. Floorcan, we would take the money that we have for the rail spur and additional money and build Floorcan a spec building. We would utilize the exact same performance-based note with them that we have with other entities, in that basically their lease would be based on 7% of our gross investment. Floorcan is contemplating building the rail spur. The relationship, though, between the rail spur and bionitrogen remains undefined. Everyone has agreed that it is probably a good way to pursue this, but we do not have the formalities worked out. Additionally, Florican's timing is really on a shorter timeline than bionitrogen's, even though they're both moving as fast as they can. I just need a little more time to work on it. But basically, what I would like to do is come back to you with a proposal in which we put our eggs in a spec building basket on IDA owned land, on one or the other piece of property. We build the spec building, they lease it from us, we give them a performance-based note that allows them to, in effect, reduce the purchase price of the building, and they then handle the construction of the rail spur from the private sector side. If we change pieces of property, though, the rail spur cost may change from $2 million to $500,000. Those are things that we're trying to get our hands wrapped around, so we just need a little more time to work on that. Does that answer your?
Well, I appreciate the explanation, but my question is more fundamental. It's more procedure-based, not, forget bionitrogen and Florican and all these guys. How do we, in any meeting in which we table any particular topic, how do we ensure that we come back and follow up on that particular topic at some point in the future?
Well, basically, that is our responsibility in the office. I constantly am on the girls about following through with that, but if you would like to develop some formal procedure that tabled items are put back, you know.
I just think if somebody comes in to discuss something with us, it's imperative for us to keep, if we say we're going to do something, I know you're in the background, maybe the foreground, but you're trying to make sure that we accomplish all these things. As a board, we may not remember everything that ever got tabled, unless there's some way for us to look at it, because we don't do this every single day like you do. And your staff in the office, I'm sure, does a wonderful job, but as a board, we need to also be cognizant of the things that we have committed to and that are not on this agenda.
I think that might be something that we should definitely take up in the workshop coming up here in a couple weeks is, yes, implementing some type of mid-monthly update to the board that has a listing, you know, a detailed, you know, some type of database of tabled items or, you know, agenda items that require follow-up of some sort. As of right now, to kind of answer your question in the immediate, Christy is primarily responsible for making sure that Bill and myself and Casey and, you know, whoever else remember to follow up on items that, you know, took place in the board meeting. So I would say right now, she's pretty much the main contact of keeping track of those items, and then as a whole, we obviously, you know, communicate, you know, with each other constantly about making sure that we are keeping up with, you know, the projects and following up on anything, but I agree that we should implement something.
Yeah, I have no doubt at all that you guys recall all of these issues, but
right.
I have a lot
Yes.
of doubt that I'm recalling all of these issues.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I recall them as well.
Yeah, and that's why I think we should do something in the workshop of setting up, again, you know, some type of mid-monthly report to you guys so you can recall all that.
Okay. What I'd like to do before we proceed to this next agenda item, we've gone on more without a break. Let's take a 5 or 6 minute break. It's about 18 after 11, 11:25, we'll start back.